Thank you. It's wonderful to be here and to share this time with you. Let me start with a very boring question. Who considers themselves here as religious? Or who believes in angels, a higher being, or God or goddesses? Do you believe in spirits, purpose in life? Is an act religious when people involved believe it to be associated with their religion? Can we understand art, politics, or culture without making sense of what people believe and call religion? What we just recognized here is the fact that we consider ourselves able to make those decisions with regards to what we believe and what we hold to be true. Religion as a category has had a bad press in the past. Well, it legitimized colonialism and building of empires, transatlantic slavery, supporting authoritarian regimes, cooperating with economic dominations, and so on and so forth, starting from the Holy Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and so on. But on the flip side, Gandhi offered nonviolence to the world from his experience of Hinduism and challenged colonialism. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X led civil rights movements inspired their respective religious views. Faith played a key role in the fight for women's suffrage and right to vote. Religious convictions compelled many to campaign on the abolition of slavery. I am from India, the land of religions. We do know how to do religion. We eat, sleep, breathe, and we make everything religious. Everything has a religious meaning. How we define, conceptualize, and understand religion will affect what we accept as religion, along with what aspects of it we particularly give importance to. Religion is a process that functions as a window into the complex social, political, and cultural lives of people and their aspirations to be human in a society. Scholars tend to disagree about defining religion. Different aspects are emphasized. Beliefs, ideas, ritual, feeling, morality, community, and so on and so forth. The key religion are not static, with timeless, unchanging entities and beliefs. Beliefs are reinterpreted, reimagined, practiced differently in different places. Religion, as a European Enlightenment category, reflects the tendency to classify, define, exclude, and label human experience within the Western discursive philosophical thought. We can certainly argue that religion is a profoundly human and social phenomenon arising and from addressing intellectual, emotional, and social sources. The non-human and the supernatural are seen as profoundly human and social within that experience because belief is not shaped in solitude. The religious world is not separate from the everyday profane world, but it is affected, influenced, and transformed by experiences in the common sense world. Religion needs to be considered in and as part of the wider context of human activity. So, we all know too well that human beings are not neutral observers, but rather we are active participants in shaping our notions of the sacred, our political, or our religious views. Perhaps this is why 6 billion of us, every 8 person in the 10, consider themselves to be religious in the world today. Noam Chomsky recently suggested that we are entering the most dangerous period in human history. There is a global fuel crunch and food crisis driven by war and conflict, resulting in skyrocketing cost of living. Millions of people are being pushed into further poverty and hunger. The latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports that perhaps we may have 3 years to fix the impending climate catastrophe. So the question is, the exasperation of pre-existing conflicts in Middle East, economic and political turmoil in Pakistan and in Sri Lanka, consolidation of power by the Hindu right in India continue to dominate the news. So how do we frame the migration and refugee crisis, which has hit the worst point since records began? More than 82 million people are on the move. The world is compounded by hatred, violence, and authoritarianism and injustice. We are indeed entering a very dangerous period in human history, where perpetuation of violence and dispossession seems endless. And religious fundamentalism and state identity and the politics associated with that continue to plague majority of our societies. Connection between belief in God and morality higher in emerging economies. Many populous countries say that religious commitment is a high priority for them. Social hostilities and religious persecution has increased in countries where you can find a very close relationship between a particular majority religious group and political institutions. Perhaps that's why there is growing evidence that people, particularly young people, are going through a phase of disenchantment of religious institutions. We have no time for religious bigotry. Why waste our time? I think it is not the problem of people who are religious, rather it is to do with the categories we employ to make sense of those people. However, if you look at the key works around building communities, it is the faith communities that are at the forefront, be it food banks in this country, or advocating for action on climate change, or divesting from fossil fuels, or addressing migration crisis, just like Archbishop Justin Welby recently spoke against the migration plans, or addressing social inequality. This begs for the question, what is the future of religion? We have certainly moved beyond the captivity of European modern thinking that reduces the complexity of what people think and believe, therefore passing judgment, what is acceptable and what is not. By employing a post-colonial approach, we could see there has been a move to resist any effort to imposing a particular definition to conquer knowledge, production, control, communication, and censor freedom of expression. Most certainly, hybridity has replaced essentialism, because hybridity resists forced assimilation, internalized self-rejection, and political co-option. social conformism, cultural mimicry, and it encourages creative transcendence. People comfortably live with multiple identities and multiple belongings. As agents, people embrace belonging in ruptured and fissured identities, no completed identities, but being constantly crafted into meaning-giving and meaning-making symbolic dwelling places. So this is where the idea of lived religion, as we see in today's world, presents itself as malleable, decentralized, and unmediated, providing space for negotiation and subversion within a community. Religious symbols, rituals, and practices are utilized to unsettle, redraw, and challenge the existing cognitive and social boundaries. In some cases, religious belonging is employed to loosen dominant ideological predicaments, be they colonial, race, caste, or institutional structures. Examining knowledge and power, people are repositioning religion in the space of human condition and experience. So, a clear desire to overcome the material and the mystical divide, or the traditional dualistic way of thinking, as we compartmentalize or try to compartmentalize. What contemporary adherents are moving beyond the definitions of religion as institutionalized faith tradition, a deep desire to disrupt the long-held concepts of religion, spirituality, or belief. Therefore, religion is recognized as being fluid, changing, and heterogeneous. It trends towards interdisciplinarity, incorporating insights from sociology, anthropology, politics, philosophy, to develop more nuanced approaches. The role of religion in politics is very important. Relational dialogism draws on postmodernism and feminism. This approach recognizes the interrelationship between different elements within religion: institutional, ideational, individual, communal, and rational, irrational experiences, as well as the interrelationship between religion and various dimensions of our society, such as politics, justice, human rights, equality, and freedom. So religion as a source of morality and cohesion, and simultaneously sets the agenda for surveillance, which fears religion as a potential danger to be contained and suppressed. This approach is construed by those who generate policy-relevant knowledge about religion in various contexts, helping those who are in power. Religion's role and place in politics and society is not fixed, but constantly shifting and changing. So, relational dialogism as a method attempts to incorporate that fluidity and dynamism into a theoretical framework for approaching study of religion and politics and international relations. So this is where the lived religion, as practiced by every individual and groups they interact with, a variety of religious practices and religious authorities, rituals, texts, and institutions, and they seek to navigate and make sense of their lives, connections with others, and place in the world. What recent evidence suggests is that religion never left politics or society, but assumed different forms and occupied different spaces under modern regimes of governance, which are often understood to be secular. So this brings us, most of the socially divisive issues across the world have their roots in some sort of religious belief, be it right to land, ordering sexual conduct or sexual orientation, and gender representation, and so on and so forth. The important observation is neither religions nor religious actors are singular, agentive forces that can be analyzed, quantified, engaged, celebrated, or condemned, and divided between good and bad. What does, for instance, striking down 1973 ruling on abortion, Roe versus Wade, mean to United States of America and beyond for women and self-determination of reproductive rights? 1 in 6 are unaffiliated in the world. They don't call themselves religious, but research suggests that many of the unaffiliated people hold some religious or spiritual beliefs, such as beliefs in God or universal spirit, even though they do not identify with particular faith, because they just don't have time for institutionalized religion. The question often asked is, what about values such as love, justice, freedom, liberty, equality, and so on? Do we need religions for this? What does, as the woke generation Z, or Zoomers as they are called, or post-millennials, and more recently, digital natives have to say about religion or values? While Generation Z values autonomy, democracy, diversity, and freedom, it is almost equally or sometimes more so averse to hate speech and misinformation. One of the recent research points out that the Generation Z is not so much opposed to religion because it doesn't matter. However, they care more about the values of diversity, love, kindness, and freedom, and inclusion. Institutionalized religions may become a memory of the past, but the impact of their value will remain because they have a way of finding their space. For me, the future of religion looks to be around values, values of spirituality, values in that it is an exercise in ascertaining principles of common good, and spiritual in that it is an exercise not in the religious sense, but as self-transformation. No doubt that polarization of views will harden and become even more politicized. Certain sections of the religious, political communities will use the same tactic to classify, define, exclude, and label human experience. And that is why we should not use the category religion as a descriptor or a catch-all term, but use it as a hybrid prism. We may have more fruitful engagement. So to conclude, when you look at society today, I see the biggest alignment of people who consider themselves as religious and those who have belief in values to look into the future, to challenge tyranny or authoritarian regime and preserve freedom, and most importantly, save our planet. Thank you.